Sex with multiple people? Honestly, learn as much as you can. Maybe even talk to a therapist or sex therapist. I had a lot of anxiety about sex because of similar pressures, morals from society, not religion. Something that helped me was reading articles, learning, watching safe porn that was vanilla and not violent or anything. There are some sites specifically dedicated to this. Once you've learned things to a point of feeling comfortable or not comfortable with it, I would say to base the decision on what you want, not what you fear. I recommend the therapist part because even if it's something you want, you still shouldn't struggle with feeling guilty or anything, because that's a hard thing to go through and might need to be addressed beforehand. I'm not a therapist. If you can't afford a therapist, maybe read up some books on it. Reflect on why you think your value is tied to your sex life. Do you really want one partner, or have other people pushed their ideals onto you instead of letting you decide what's best for you? Or do you really think one partner is what's right for you? Whatever you decide, take your time, and there's no wrong answer. It's your body and your sex life. Don't do anything you're not comfortable with, and you should be able to say no, change your mind at any time, even if it's in the middle of sex. Just be clear and honest with any of your partners on where you're at. As someone who's been talked into multiple different threesomes as the unicorn, it's really not all it's cracked up to be. Don't get me wrong, they can be fun, really fun. I've had a few that I got along with all involved, and it made for fond memories. If the idea of it doesn't feel right to you, like a gut feeling, I strongly recommend not doing it. I had this weird guilty gut feeling before one once, and I really didn't want to do it. I in the end went along with it because I just wanted to make my friend happy. I hated every minute of it. Ended up actually crying towards the end of it. I'm not trying to swing you either way, I promise. Don't just do it to do it. If it's not in your nature to want to have a lot of sex, then you shouldn't push yourself to do it just because it is normal for young people to explore sexually. If you do decide to go for it, you have to educate yourself on sex aftercare, birth control options, STDs, STIs, and how each one is treated, so you don't carry the fear or stigma. And make sure you are prepared for the minuscule possibility of a pregnancy. Here you are not talking about having sex with a different person eventually. Like, in your next relationship, if your current one does not work out. You are talking about having sex with two different people at the same time. Those are two very different things. If you feel conflicted, if you feel hesitant, I don't think you should do it. Once it's done, it can't be erased. I'll tell you what, I was not raised religious. I am 32 and I have never had a threesome, and I never want to have one. It just feels wrong to me. I would regret it. Threesome and other untraditional sexual practices are way more accepted than before and normalized. That's fine, but it should not make you pressurized in doing things that you are not comfortable with. You have the right to have your own conception of sex, even if it is a more traditional one. Sometimes we have fantasies, like a threesome, but practicing them could make us uncomfortable, because reality is always different from how we picture things. It's okay to have fantasies, to explore yourself, your boundaries and new things, practicing it. And it's also okay if you just want to keep it in your mind without practice. Do only what you feel comfortable. As a side note, what about talking with a sexologist? I was pro threesomes with non-serious relationships. Once you find your soulmate, serious relationship things change. I wanted a threesome but thought about it really hard, and came to the conclusion that it wouldn't be same. And once it happens, that's it. No take-backs. Do I miss it? No. Do I feel limited? No. I'm happy and content with what I got going with my partner. Besides great sex, we have so much more to offer to each other. A threesome wouldn't be worth the risk to lose it all. So think really hard. Sex can be cherishable and almost holy, like you say. It can also be ephemeral and purely carnal, with a million variations in between. Just be true to you, and do what you want with your body. There's nothing wrong with being young and alive. You're meant to experience the world. You don't need to have a threesome, and quite honestly, they're overrated. Do what makes you happy. Don't be pressured. And religion is a full-time guilt trip. So it is hard to know what you want. Just trust yourself. I personally think there is nothing wrong with sleeping with whoever you want. It is your body to use and enjoy as you like. Whether you have one partner in your lifetime or 100, it doesn't change your value as a person. Your value comes from who you are, not who you sleep with. But saying that, if you are not comfortable sleeping with someone else or having a threesome, don't do it. It's your body and only you get to choose who you share it with. Don't be pressured into it. You can always change your mind later if you want. You have your whole life to think about this and experiment if that is what you decide you want. You are kind of equating being sexually modest with being a good person. As someone who hangs out in the kink scene, I can tell you that I've met some of the most saint-like people who are totally into random sex with strangers. That nurse who is always there for their patients. That friend who is super loyal. That teacher that is such a positive influence on your children might be having the most wild sexual adventures, and it doesn't take away any of their goodness. Consensual sex between adults has no victim if handled properly. I hope this might help a bit with your perspective. However, it's totally fine to be a one guy girl if that's what you want. I have had a threesome. I should have done the cost-benefit analysis. It was super hot, super fun, and super emotionally destructive afterwards. 1/10. Would never recommend while in a committed relationship. Don't do it if you're not single. If you ever consider it while single, don't do it unless it's meaningless fun for all three. Plus, parties. Which it almost never is. You just gotta make sure your guilt, anxiety isn't because you don't actually want to do it. Otherwise, it's just the vestiges of your upbringing. Most people have sex with more than one person in their lifetimes. But it's nothing to feel shame about either way. If the three people are people you know and trust and respect, they'll respect your feelings if you decide halfway through that it's not for you. Just let them know that it's an experiment and you don't totally know if you'll be cool with it or not. That's why it's called experimenting. My 2 cents about this issue. Sex is, like all thing in life, is subject to your preferences. If you are not happy doing it, I feel like you shouldn't force yourself to. Myself was a huge homophobe back then. Religious and family made sure of that. But now I am living in bliss with my trans partner. So things can change if you let yourself try. But don't force yourself. Leaving toxic purity culture behind is so difficult. I grew up very religious and struggled with this a lot in my 20s. Just know that your value is not in your physical purity. A valuable, loving man will love you for who you are and not the state of your vagina. Please know that your sensual choices are yours and yours alone, and you should have no shame for sleeping with one person or 100. Just please use protection, birth control. Safety first. Having a threesome is a personal choice and there should be no guilt around it. I would recommend going to a sex therapist. I did. My guilt and self-value was overwhelming and she really helped me work through that. It's not weird at all and was good to work through all the shame I was raised with. If you and your boyfriend do ever break up, I would just hate for you to feel less than because you were not a virgin for your next relationship. Sex is meant to be enjoyed, and how you do that is yours and your choice alone. Sex with one person can be very special, but sex with two others is where it can get super dicey. I have had one three-way. It was with a friend with benefits and her mate. Her mate and I actually were very sexually compatible, and the FWB got super upset. It came out later that she only did the three-way because she thought it would bring us closer together. I told her I wanted no strings and broke things off. She threatened to glass me and called me a culture tourist. I'm bi. So yeah, jealous is a hell of a thing. So the main question is, if you felt your partner and whoever else you hooked up with was more sexually compatible, would it internally kill you to be a part of her? Would it turn you on? And same question for your partner regarding you? These are the main things to ask yourself. Stop thinking about numbers, they are irrelevant. Although I was raised religious, so I get the guilt. Definitely don't do it if one of the people is someone you're in a long-term relationship with. Relationships almost never survive this kind of sexual experimentation. You should probably wait until you're single and can experiment with other unattached people. 1. Don't do anything sexual you don't want to do. 2. Stock up on good protection. Test timing. If going for raw in advance, there will be risks. Risks can come with sex. 3. If you focus your exploration based on the Bible, then you're going, in my opinion, a route that's designed to repress you. 4. Plenty things in the Bible are not moral. Think on that. Group sex is pinched fingers. Pinched fingers.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. TooAfraidToAsk is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.